You can't be confident, so be confident. You can't.
I think Caitlin Clark is already one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time, purely for the fact of what she has done on the court and also the kind of eyeballs that she has brought to a sport that really never had this kind of fame behind it, this kind of fandom behind it.
This intellectual sport icon recently spoke out to defend and support Caitlin Clark after she was crowned 2024 Athlete of the Year. Despite her achievement, Caitlin quickly found herself at the center of a media firestorm. The reason? Her honest remarks about privilege and race, which apparently struck a nerve with some people, proving that discussing these topics is still too much for certain individuals to handle.
It's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around because I'm so focused and so competitive, and I love the game. I love playing. I love being in front of the fans. But over the course of probably the last two and a half years, it's all kind of changed where, it's hard to get a ticket whether we're at home or whether we're on the road.
After her Time magazine interview went live, the backlash came pouring in, with critics attacking every word Caitlin Clark said. But here's the twist: instead of backing down, Clark stood her ground. What followed was a wave of support from some of the most legendary figures in sports. LeBron, Serena, MJ, they all came out swinging to defend her. It was like the sports world's version of the Avengers assembling, and trust me, they were not here for the nonsense.
And I feel like you have had to answer more questions than anybody about the intersectionality of race and gender and sexuality in sport.
Caitlin Clark found herself at the center of a media firestorm, but it wasn't because of her record-breaking performances or her signature three-point shots. No, it was because she had the audacity to be competitive, a crime, apparently, when you're a woman. The backlash was as swift as it was ridiculous, with critics scrambling to label her a villain simply for doing what athletes do best: competing with passion.
I'm so focused and so competitive, and I love the game. I love playing. I love being in front of the fans. But over the course of probably the last two and a half years, it's all kind of changed where, it's hard to get a ticket whether we're at home or whether we're on the road.
And just when the noise from her critics reached a fever pitch, Caitlin Clark did what she does best: she took control of the narrative. Caitlin didn't just speak her truth, she lit the whole narrative on fire. Her words have exposed the cracks in the system, and now the league is forced to face the reality they've tried to ignore for so long.
Cheryl Swoops and others who were clearly distant and dismissive of her, no matter how much they try to deny it. There was resentment towards her, and here's why I said it was stupid.
The WNBA just hit a new low, and honestly, I didn't think that was possible at this point. Caitlin Clark, a literal rookie phenom, record-smashing machine, and walking highlight reel, just exposed the league for what it truly is: a circus of incompetence masquerading as professional basketball. This woman rewrote history in her first year, and what does she get in return? A front row seat to the WNBA's masterclass in how to fumble greatness.
She still fell victim to being in the middle of all of these controversies. So the fact that she saw some of that and she feels that way kind of sucks.
Let's talk numbers, because Caitlin Clark isn't just good, she's legendary. 6 rookie records in points and assists? Check. 4 franchise records? Check. 19 assists in one game, shattering the league's previous record? Absolutely, and just casually crowned Time magazine's Athlete of the Year for 2024. But sure, let's treat her like she's just another player in the lineup, because apparently that's how the WNBA rolls.
A 2-time league champion and now 3-time WNBA MVP, told the Associated Press she thought Clark's race was a huge contributor to her popularity. It doesn't matter what we all do as Black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is.
In her jaw-dropping Time magazine interview, Caitlin finally let loose about the nonsense she's been dealing with. Let me paint the picture for you: Olympic snubs, unchecked physical aggression on the court, and a league that seems to thrive on media chaos instead of actual basketball. It's like the WNBA is allergic to success. Instead of protecting and promoting their rising stars, they're out here handing them Target practice jerseys and saying good luck. Creating a more balanced roster that could develop into a cohesive team capable of competing on all fronts without relying too heavily on any single player.
From the Atlanta Dream, the Golden State Valkyries select center Ileana Rupert.
Another layer to this decision is the Valkyries' emphasis on defense and versatility. Players like Bentley, Alana Rurt, and Monique Billings offer flexibility in multiple positions, allowing the team to adapt to different matchups. Drafting Clark, while enticing, might have limited their ability to assemble a well-rounded roster. But let's not overlook the Fever's role in all of this. As part of the expansion draft rules, teams were allowed to protect certain players. Unsurprisingly, the Fever chose to protect Caitlin Clark, effectively taking her off the table for the Valkyries. However, this decision came at a cost, leaving players like Bentley unprotected. For the Fever, this was a calculated risk. They prioritized securing their star player, knowing that losing others could be a necessary sacrifice. While accepting the potential loss of valuable role players, the decision to protect Clark also reflects her importance to the Fever's future. She's not just a player, she's a franchise centerpiece. Losing her would have been catastrophic for their rebuilding efforts. Still, some fans argue that the Fever's decision to leave Bentley unprotected was a mistake. After all, she's a reliable contributor who brings experience and toughness to the court. For the Valkyries, the draft was an opportunity to make a statement not just to the league but to their future fans. By passing on high-profile players like Caitlin Clark, they signaled their intent to build a team based on depth, teamwork, and strategic planning. This approach may not generate immediate buzz, but it sets the foundation for sustainable success. Of course, not everyone agrees with this strategy. Some critics believe the Valkyries missed an opportunity to draft a generational talent. Caitlin Clark's ability to draw fans and elevate her teammates makes her a rare commodity in the WNBA. Passing on her might be seen as a gamble, especially for a new team looking to establish itself in a competitive league. Still, there's a case to be made for the Valkyries' decision. Building a successful franchise takes time and careful planning. While star players like Caitlin Clark can be game changers, they also come with challenges both on and off the court. For the Valkyries, the expansion draft wasn't just about acquiring talent, it was about laying the groundwork for a team that can compete at the highest level. In a bold and groundbreaking interview with Time magazine, where she was named Athlete of the Year for 2024, she dropped a truth bomb that sent the media and the world into a frenzy.
Feels the need to acknowledge her white privilege. Basically, she's sorry she's white. She feels really bad about it though, so you should give her a pass.
In a world where accountability is often ignored, Caitlin Clark dared to admit that her success wasn't just about her relentless work ethic. It was also shaped by the privileges she was born with. And if you think that was the end of it, buckle up, because Clark wasn't stopping there.
Favorite player was Maya Moore. I know what this league was about. And like I said, it's only been around 25 plus years. So I know there's been so many amazing black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important.
Clark used her platform to shine a light on others. She acknowledged the foundational role that black athletes like Maya Moore played in shaping the WNBA, highlighting how their contributions were instrumental in getting the league to where it is today.
Things stemming from Caitlin Clark's Time magazine interview, I could have never guessed that interview would stir up so much controversy.
And the world, well, they didn't quite know what to do with her. Some saw her words as a breath of fresh air, an athlete who wasn't afraid to tackle the tough issues head on. Others, however, weren't ready for this conversation and lashed out.
The players of the WNBA can't fucking stand her. Why? Because she's white. It's abject, absolute racism.
The WNBA is in full meltdown mode after Caitlin Clark dropped truth bombs that exposed everything wrong with the league. Caitlin, known for speaking only when it truly matters, let loose in her latest interview, pulling no punches about the ridiculous injustices she's faced. From the unchecked physicality on the court to the blatant neglect by the league, she didn't hold back. Her raw honesty has shone a light on the issues that have been swept under the rug for far too long.
She admitted it here that it was so much harder going to the WNBA, but also that she was able to rise to the occasion and become a better player.
She didn't hold back, admitting that it was so much harder transitioning to the WNBA, but also that she was able to rise to the occasion and become a better player despite the brutality and chaos. Caitlin stayed strong, not for the WNBA, but for her fans who believe in her and the future of women's basketball. She's the reason people even bother tuning in, proving that women's basketball can be exciting, competitive, and worth every bit of attention.
The players of the WNBA can't fucking stand her. Why? Because she's white. It's abject, absolute racism. It's total racism.
And now the WNBA is scrambling because they can't handle her courage or honesty. What's next? As the Valkyries prepare for their inaugural season, all eyes will be on their roster. Will their strategic approach pay off, or will they regret passing on players like Caitlin Clark?
Just like sick that we had lost so many games, and also feeling like we were better than that.
As the season progressed, Clark's game evolved. She studied defensive strategies and adjusted her play style, outsmarting even the most experienced defenders. Her teammates and her coach, Christy Sides, also adjusted to the once-in-a-generation play style of Clark. Some would even say Sides just let Clark run the show. Her hard work paid off. Clark was named Rookie of the Year and first-team All-WNBA, breaking 62 records along the way and proving she could excel among the pros. She had faced the fire and emerged stronger, more skilled, and more determined than ever. But while Clark was making waves on the court, her team was facing struggles of its own. The Indiana Fever's journey was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would test Clark's resolve and shape the future of the franchise.
Now, obviously, I don't think Caitlin Clark had anything to do with Christy Sides' firing. I think Christy Sides' inability to coach basketball had everything to do with her firing, and I mean that. I think the reason why Christy Sides got fired is because she's not a very good basketball coach. And I think that if you put in any sort of competent basketball mind, you can tell she's not a very...
You don't know how to use Caitlin Clark's strengths. You don't know how to play to her weaknesses. You don't know how to draw up a simple out-of-bounds play. You don't know how to calm down muddy waters. You don't know how to call a timeout and relax everybody's emotions. You don't know how to talk to the referees. All you know how to do is wave your arms and defensive slide on the sidelines. And Christy Sides, I'm tired of seeing it every single...
The answer might not come immediately, but one thing is certain: this decision will be scrutinized. The Valkyries' decision to pass on Caitlin Clark, while their choice might seem baffling on the surface, is essential to understand within the bigger picture. How does this decision impact the future of the Valkyries and Caitlin Clark's role with the Indiana Fever? First, let's revisit the idea of building a team from scratch. When you're starting a new franchise, there's an undeniable pressure to make a splash. A player like Caitlin Clark would have undoubtedly grabbed headlines and put fans in seats. However, a franchise's success isn't measured by hype alone. It's about winning games and developing a sustainable culture. The Valkyries seem to have prioritized balance over star power. One aspect of this decision revolves around Caitlin Clark's fit within a brand new system. Clark is known for her dynamic, high-energy style of play. She's a high-usage player who thrives in systems designed to showcase her individual talents. However, for a new team like the Valkyries, drafting a player of Clark's caliber could have led to a lopsided roster. The team might have been tempted to build entirely around her, potentially sacrificing depth and versatility in the process. On the flip side, there's no denying the risks involved in bypassing a star like Clark. Historically, teams that secure elite talent in their early years often set themselves up for long-term success. Clark's ability to draw double teams, stretch defenses, and control the pace of a game makes her a generational talent. By passing on her, the Valkyries could be gambling on their ability to find comparable talent in the future, a risk that might not pay off.
Was number one last night, but for her rookie season, she's only making $76,000. I say only, but that's just in comparison to other NBA players and WNBA players. What does that say about the pay gap?
Let's also talk about the role of protected players in the expansion draft. As mentioned earlier, the Indiana Fever protected Caitlin Clark, ensuring she wouldn't be available for selection. This move was a no-brainer for the Fever. Clark is not just a key player for their team. I make her a key asset for any team, especially one looking to build a solid foundation. Tammy Bimley's experience and defensive prowess bring a stability that is often undervalued, particularly for a new franchise like the Valkyries. While her stats may not make headlines, her leadership on and off the court, particularly in high-pressure situations, could prove to be invaluable in helping the team develop its identity and culture. The Fever's decision to protect Caitlin Clark, while understandable from a franchise perspective, left them vulnerable in other areas, allowing the Valkyries to capitalize on this by selecting Bimley. The challenge will be finding a way to maximize her strengths while building a well-rounded team that can compete at a high level. On the other hand, the Valkyries' decision to focus on versatility and balance might not immediately capture the spotlight, but it could prove to be a more sustainable approach. Their long-term vision involves creating a cohesive and adaptable team, which could give them an advantage in the future. However, the absence of a marquee player like Clark may hinder their ability to gain the kind of attention and fan base needed to thrive in the competitive WNBA environment. The financial implications of building a team are significant, especially for a new franchise like the Valkyries. While the Fever might rely on the revenue generated by Clark's star power to offset some of the costs, the Valkyries' strategy of focusing on versatile role players could help them manage their salary cap more effectively in the long run. By not investing heavily in one high-profile player, the Valkyries can allocate their resources to building depth and strengthening various positions, which is critical for team sustainability. This financial approach also allows the Valkyries to be more flexible with their roster in the future. If they decide to bring in star players later on, they will have the financial flexibility to make those moves without compromising their overall team structure. By contrast, the Fever may face challenges down the line if they place too much emphasis on Clark's individual performance and star power, potentially limiting their ability to balance the roster with other key pieces. Ultimately, the Valkyries' decision to build a balanced team may take time to show results, but it could provide them with a solid foundation for the future. On the other hand, the Fever's reliance on Clark's star power might give them immediate visibility but could pose risks if the team fails to complement her strengths with a well-rounded roster.
Clark's pulling in more than some top NBA rookies.
Now, word on the street is that Caitlin Clark basically made around $11 million for the year of 2024.
Can you believe that the girl everyone thinks is getting shortchanged is actually out earning some of the guys?
And team chemistry over individual stardom, the Valkyries are betting on long-term success rather than instant gratification. By focusing on building a well-rounded roster, they aim to create a cohesive unit that can adapt to various challenges and styles of play. This approach may not bring immediate fan excitement or the marketability boost that a player like Caitlin Clark could offer, but it sets a strong foundation for future growth. While Clark's marketability and ability to drive revenue are undeniable, the Valkyries' decision to avoid the financial strain of building around a single superstar could ultimately allow them to create a more sustainable team. Managing the contract of a star player like Clark, especially for a new team, could have been a financial burden. It's a classic case of balancing risk and reward, where the Fever had to secure their star player while also potentially sacrificing depth. For the Valkyries, however, picking up a seasoned player like Bentley could help lay the groundwork for a more well-rounded, competitive team as they build towards future success, with the right supporting cast. While Caitlin Clark undoubtedly has the talent to elevate her teammates, the Fever's success will depend on how effectively they build around her. The pressure on Clark to carry the team could be overwhelming without complementary players who can contribute in key areas like defense, playmaking, and rebounding. For the Fever, maintaining balance will be crucial to their long-term success. As a transformative figure, Clark will likely draw attention, increase merchandise sales, and boost fan engagement, but if the Fever focus too much on making her the centerpiece, it could create issues with roster depth and team chemistry, potentially limiting their ability to fill out the roster with the necessary depth. The team's emphasis on chemistry and culture is also an important factor. Building a team that works well together and buys into a collective vision can be just as important, if not more so, than having a single standout player. By focusing on versatility and creating a culture of teamwork, the Valkyries are laying the groundwork for a franchise that can grow organically and compete for years to come. This decision, though it might not yield instant results, reflects a thoughtful approach to team building that could pay off in the future. Different strategies for building a franchise in the WNBA. The Valkyries have chosen to prioritize defense, depth, and adaptability, constructing a team that can compete through balance and versatility. While this approach could lead to steady growth and long-term success, the absence of a marquee player like Caitlin Clark could present challenges, particularly in terms of attracting fans and building excitement around the franchise in its early years. On the other hand, the Indiana Fever's decision to protect Clark underscores her importance not only as a player but as the face of their franchise. The Fever are betting on Clark's star power to propel them through their rebuilding phase, believing her individual brilliance will help drive the team forward. While losing valuable role players like Tammy Bentley may hurt them in the short term, the Fever are placing their faith in Clark's ability to elevate the team both on and off the court. Ultimately, the Valkyries' choice and the Fever's decision highlight the different paths franchises can take, one focused on sustainable, balanced growth and the other on leveraging star power for immediate impact. Time will tell which strategy proves to be more effective in building a competitive and successful franchise.
The average ticket price has gone up, say roughly $100. So that right there is looking at $1 million per game. And so if you take that times 14 home games, that's $14 million.
So you might be wondering how she's doing it well. Clark's not just thinking about next. season, or even the next 5 years, she's playing the long game, setting herself up as a brand that goes way beyond basketball, those speaking gigs at Nike. Deal, they're just the beginning.
They did release a list of the top earning female athletes, and Caitlin Clark is 10 at 11.1 million.
Clark's success isn't just about her, it's forcing the entire sports world to rethink how they value women athletes. The WNBA sponsors even entire cities. They're all scrambling to keep up with the Clark effect. So what's next? That's the million-dollar question, because at this point, it's not about whether Clark's getting paid enough. It's about whether the rest of the world can keep up with her. One thing's for sure, we're watching history in the making, and Clark's just getting started.
A few months ago, and it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. I would be shocked if it's under 15 million. And the fact is, if she didn't get screwed by Nike and got what she was realistically worth, which is probably the 10 mil a year, that could be closer to 20 mil.
Of being the face of the franchise will be under constant scrutiny. As the Fever's centerpiece, Clark will need to not only deliver standout performances on the court, but also embrace the leadership role required to elevate the entire team. The pressure to succeed will be immense, and her ability to carry the load and foster team chemistry will be key to the Fever's success. For the Valkyries, the challenge lies in proving that a roster built on versatility, depth, and balance can thrive in a league where star power often dominates. Players like Tammy Fagbennell, Monique Billings, and Alana Wirt will need to step up and play pivotal roles, showing that the collective strength of the team can overcome the absence of a marquee player.